I'm Eric Thomas. Thanks for inviting us into your homes tonight. We'll see you right back here at 6.
Tonight, President Trump's surprise warning saying he may impose a 2-week quarantine for parts of New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. New York's governor responding, caught off guard during his own briefing, saying, "I don't like the sound of it." Tonight, the U.S. Navy hospital ship sailing this way, hoping to ease the burden on overwhelmed hospitals. The outbreak taking a toll on first responders. 3 members of the NYPD dying in 48 hours. And heartbreaking news, Illinois reporting the death of an infant to the virus. A state health official there saying, if you haven't been paying attention, this is your wake-up call. The relentless battle, hospitals facing a critical shortage tonight. Mayors across the country sounding the alarm. More than 90% of their cities don't have enough masks or test kits. In some cases, doctors and nurses and healthcare workers saying they're having to choose between their safety and their patients. And the image tonight, the first-year resident coming home from the hospital, staying separated from his wife and son. Young Americans hit hard by the virus. 1 in 5 coronavirus cases is someone between the ages of 20 and 44. The 28-year-old woman documenting her condition, lying in bed, coughing, the warning for others her age. Overseas tonight, the haunting milestones. Italy's death toll now topping 10,000. Spain reporting its deadliest day to date. And news from the Vatican after Pope Francis was tested for the coronavirus. Also tonight, harmony and hope. Musicians using a universal language to send a message. We are all in this together.
From ABC News, this is ABC World News Tonight.
And good evening. Thanks for joining us. On this Saturday. I'm Tom Yamas. And we begin tonight with new developments in the coronavirus emergency in America and around the world. President Trump tonight weighing a drastic move. The U.S. now with more than 119,000 cases and more than 2,000 deaths. The president unexpectedly announcing he may issue a 2-week quarantine for parts of New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. The governor tonight calling it a, quote, federal declaration of war on the states. New York State with about half of those cases, overwhelming hospitals. Governor Andrew Cuomo revealing the state has begun large-scale testing of an experimental treatment. Tonight, the U.S. Navy hospital ship Comfort making its way to New York, deploying from Norfolk, Virginia today. The NYPD losing another one of their own detectives, Cedric Dixon, the first uniformed officer to die from complications of coronavirus. Chicago now in danger of becoming America's next hot zone. The Army Corps of Engineers now converting McCormick Place into a makeshift hospital. And L.A. take a look at this, closing its beaches for now. Cases there expected to soar. The virus also spreading across Texas, more than 2,000 cases. ABC's Stephanie Ramos leads us off tonight.
Today, President Trump sending a Navy hospital ship to help hard-hit New York. But as he departed the White House, Trump floated the idea of shutting down the entire region.
There's a possibility that sometime today we'll do a quarantine, short-term, 2 weeks on New York, probably New Jersey, certain parts, and Connecticut.
The proposed order could affect the tri-state's more than 30 million residents, the most populous urban area in the country.
Well, this would be an enforceable quarantine, and, you know, I'd rather not do it, but we may need it.
The president saying he spoke to New York's Governor Andrew Cuomo before his announcement. But during his own press conference, minutes later, the governor caught off guard.
No, I haven't had those conversations. I don't even know what that means. I don't know how that could be legally enforceable. And from a medical point of view, I don't know what you would be accomplishing. But I can tell you, I don't even like the sound of it. Not even understanding what it is. I don't like the sound of it.
A regional quarantine of such magnitude appears to be unprecedented. Tom Bossert worked for President Trump as his Homeland Security advisor.
Although the president does have these authorities, it'll almost be a necessary precondition that the governor and the mayor and all of the officials under their command and control do this voluntarily in agreement, and more importantly, with their cooperation.
Trump says governors from states less affected by the virus asked him to look into a quarantine for the tri-state area. South Carolina, Texas, Maryland, Florida, among the states ordering visitors from some areas like New York and Louisiana to self-isolate. In Rhode Island, these stark images, the National Guard deployed to train stations, checking passengers' tickets. Anyone who has been to New York told to quarantine for 14 days. The governor also ordering the National Guard to go door to door, looking for people who have traveled to New York, collecting their contact information, asking them to self-quarantine as well. And state troopers stopping drivers with New York plates.
Folks from New York present a different kind of danger to the people of Rhode Island. I know this is unusual. I know it's extreme. And I know some people don't agree with it.
The virus striking around the country. In Illinois, more than 450 new cases and 13 deaths, including an infant.
If you haven't been paying attention, maybe this is your wake-up call.
The McCormick Place Convention Center in Chicago set to be transformed into a 3,000-bed hospital for coronavirus patients. In Louisiana, another hotspot, more than 3,000 cases and more than 130 people dead. Mardi Gras held in the state just a few weeks ago. The mayor of New Orleans says she would have canceled the iconic parades if there would have been more guidance from the federal government at the time.
When it's not taken seriously at the federal level, it's very difficult to transcend down to the local level in making these decisions.
In Los Angeles, officials implemented even more restrictions, closing most hiking trails and beaches. Offshore, one of the Navy's floating hospital ships, Mercy, starting to admit patients with ailments other than the virus today. The Comfort sailing toward New York, bringing 1,000 beds. With more than 52,000 COVID-19 cases, the state is the epicenter of the crisis in this country. The death toll climbing now to 700, up more than 200 from just yesterday. The governor announcing today 4 new emergency medical facilities like this one at the Javits Center will be built.
All right, Stephanie Ramos joins us now from New York. And Stephanie, I want to go back to the president's comments about possibly quarantining parts of New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. When the president first made the comments, it surprised some of the governors of those states.
Absolutely, Tom, and there are still a lot of questions tonight. New York's Governor Andrew Cuomo says a multi-state quarantine would not be legal and that it would be more of a lockdown. And Connecticut's governor, who says he's been in touch with Cuomo, he says he wants to speak to the president about this, afraid confusion could lead to panic. Tom.
Stephanie Ramos with those breaking developments tonight. Stephanie, thank you. Now to the critical shortages at hospitals across the country. Mayors say more than 90% of U.S. cities don't have an adequate supply of test kits or masks. And of course, those ventilators are in high demand. Doctors and nurses say they feel as if they're choosing sometimes between their patient safety or their own. Here's ABC's Trevor Ault.
Tonight, officials' desperate calls for more ventilators are growing louder. The president enacting the Korean War-era Defense Production Act, ordering General Motors to manufacture the much-needed medical equipment. In the hard-hit state of New York, the governor says they'll need 30,000 ventilators, and should they not get them, they may have to resort to what are called bag valve masks, essentially handheld ventilators that require a person to continuously pump them.
We're very frightened it's going to get worse.
Dr. Roland Wagspack is the ER director at East Jefferson General Hospital near New Orleans, and he says they're running out of space.
We have seen more and more critical patients with the disease. We're running out of capacity at our hospital.
Already in Queens, New York, this video posted on Facebook showing a packed emergency room lined with patients on hospital beds, doctors and nurses desperate to treat them. And tonight, more than 90% of mayors nationwide say they don't have enough masks or test kits. Nurses say they don't have the personal protective equipment necessary to keep themselves safe from the virus.
It puts us in a position where sometimes we have to choose between our safety and our patient's safety. And that's not okay, patient safety. And that's not okay.
Sean Petty, an ER nurse in the Bronx, says he's forced to use the same mask for a week.
We're trying to take precautions, but with such widespread infection that can be transmitted in so many different ways, and because of our lack of protection, we are being exposed.
This nurse posting her anguish on social media.
This is truly scary and nobody is taking it seriously.
She says her hospital's not only short on masks and other protective equipment.
We're out of Tylenol. We're out of Tylenol. I don't know what I can do to save people anymore.
The family of 48-year-old nurse Caius Kelly says he worked on those dangerous front lines. He tested positive for COVID-19 and died days later from the virus. His sister saying if he had adequate equipment, he might still be alive.
If you're not protecting, if you don't have the PPE, if you are rationing out gowns and masks and, locking